This client asks, when will I receive compensation for my settlement? I was injured in 2024 in an accident, which I was offered a settlement for, but now I'm getting impatient. This reading will show us that healing can really occur when there is a knowing that our life has meaning, and that astrology shows us that even our deepest struggles can become sacred. I'm Adam Sweet from Soul Astrology, and this is an anonymous birth chart reading. We're going to start out by looking at the date of the actual injury. This inner wheel here is the native's birth chart, and the outer wheel are the transits on the day that the injury occurred. So you can think of that as an event chart for the injury. The first thing I want to point out is that we have transiting Uranus opposing, thus activating within 3 degrees, the native's moon. Now, the moon is the planet that naturally signifies our body and psychology. The first house in Hellenistic astrology is the helm of the ship and is our character, temperament, psychology, the native themselves. But also, we can look to the luminary, the moon, for significations of body. Now, when we see an opposition occurring and an activation of that natal moon from transiting Uranus, Uranus is that planet of sudden, shocking upheaval and disruption. And so Uranus comes along and symbolizes that injury occurring. Now we can also look at that same transiting Uranus activating Venus. It is sitting right on top of natal Venus there in the 10th house. That's a very powerful Venus in its own domicile in an angular house. And we know, or I know from my email exchange with this native, that they had to miss many months of work due to this injury. So Uranus brings its same disruptive energy to the ruler of that 10th house of career. And it also doesn't hurt to mention that the 10th house is that house of public reputation, but also just the world out there away from our home. If the fourth house is our home, the 10th house is the world where we go and work, where we go and engage in our daily activities outside of our house, out there in the world. So I think that's all really potent symbolism that points to this injury on the day that it occurred. Now let's see if we can help gain some clarity for this individual on when they may receive compensation for the injury. I am going to pull up a powerful moment coming up for this native on August 12th, 2026. There is going to be a solar eclipse happening in Leo in their first house. This eclipse is sitting very, very close to their natal Uranus. And solar eclipses are really potent and powerful moments, especially when they happen in angular houses close to prominent planets in a birth chart, and especially when they happen in the first house of a native ruled by the sun. Solar eclipses open doors and often present us with very dramatic moments in time where there is great change around solar themes, like the plot line of our life. So I could really see this being a potent window where either that process of compensation gets started or there is a lot more clarity brought to the forefront around when payment will be received. What also makes this eclipse so powerful is the fact that it is square to the native's moon. And if you remember from that event chart of the injury, the moon was the planet receiving the opposition from transiting Uranus at the time, thus activating and representing injury to the body. And now we have a completely different and equally powerful, if not even more powerful, eclipse squaring that placement. And to me, this feels like a really powerful moment. And I think that this August window is a really good one to keep your eye on in terms of gaining clarity around that compensation. The other thing that's happening during this eclipse that to me feels like a very auspicious omen is that we have transiting Jupiter, the planet of expansion and abundance. It was known as the Greater Benefic, or is known as the Greater Benefic in Hellenistic astrology. And when that eclipse occurs, that Jupiter is sitting right, almost exactly down to the minute, on top of this native's ascendant degree. Now, that to me is a very powerful sign of good things happening. Now, if we move this along, Jupiter is going to keep moving through that first house there. And right here, around the middle of October, now Jupiter starts to activate that moon. And so I love this time frame. Eclipses have really long shelf lives, meaning that often they occur and it might not be a dramatic event or change of circumstance or plot line of your life on the day that they happen. But then a couple weeks later or even months later, we all of a sudden see really that symbolism coming to fruition. But now with Jupiter in the mix too, and moving through that first house, activating natal Uranus there and activating the moon, to me, this is all really powerful and very just prominently good symbolism towards that payment coming into your life. It also doesn't hurt that Jupiter rules the eighth house in this native's birth chart of other people's resources and is transiting that first house there. Now, Jupiter will actually be transiting this native's first house for literally the next year. But I really hope that they don't have to wait that long to receive compensation for that injury. I really like that eclipse window followed by these Jupiter transits. So really this like mid-August through mid-October timeline, or even mid-August through, I hate to say it, but the end of the year. That's really like the sweet spot to me, in my opinion. That kind of points towards that abundance just flowing into your life for all the pain and suffering that you went through due to that injury. I hope we did some good work for this client today. There's a truly beautiful, almost magical and alchemical healing that occurs when we see our struggles and also, in this case, our injuries reflected back to us through the sacred language of astrology. So if any of you out there are interested in an anonymous birth chart reading like the one you saw here today, shoot me your question and birth data to adam@soulastrology.com and we'll go ahead and take a look at it. I really appreciate you watching, everybody. Take care out there. Bye.